was in high school, I picked up this part-time job working at a local gas station. It was not a glorious job by any means, but hey, money is money. I mainly worked the weekends and the night shifts, and let me tell you, you get some characters at that time. I was maybe a month into working my new job when I would start to notice this man come in. He usually would come in after 10 p.m., buy Slim Jims and a coffee, and be on his way. After seeing him so frequently, we eventually started chatting more and more. I found out that he was a pastor at a church, but he was never preachy or overtly religious. In fact, if he didn't tell me he was a pastor, I would have never guessed it. But overall, he seemed like a really nice man and was really friendly. Well, one night, it was just me working at the gas station. It had been a very slow night that night, and I hadn't seen a customer come in almost an hour. I was sitting behind the register when I heard the bell of the door. I looked up and saw that it was the pastor coming in. There was nothing unusual about this, as he usually came in at these late hours. However, when I saw him, he looked different. His eyes were wide, his shirt had missing buttons, and his hair was ruffled. He came up to the counter, his eyes still very wide. I was about to ask him how he was when he stopped me and said, "Son, do you think we go to hell for mortal sins?" I kind of laughed nervously at this because I myself am not very religious. I said if there is a hell, then I guess it depends what the person did. He just stared at me and didn't say a word. I was starting to get really nervous by his behavior. Then, without a word, he walked over to the back room where the bathroom was and went into it. A few more customers came in after that, and I had almost forgotten that he was still in there. No lie, an hour went by since he went into the bathroom, and I decided to go over and just check to see if he was okay. I knocked on the door. I listened hard, but I couldn't hear anything. I asked if everything was okay. No response. I was heading back to the register where my phone was to call my boss and asked him what I should do, when all of a sudden, 2 police officers came into the station. They had their guns drawn and asked if a certain man had come in here. I had a strong suspicion they were referring to the pastor, and I nervously pointed to the bathroom door. Long story short, this pastor ended up murdering his wife and 2 children. He left a note behind saying that he would be at the gas station. And get this, I read in the reports that the pastor claimed the devil made him do it. Thinking back on it now is actually terrifying, because he seemed like a completely normal and functioning human being, who I would have never suspected could be capable of such a thing. His question about hell has haunted me too. Again, I'm not religious, but I figured murder is something that would definitely send you to hell. Rest in peace to the wife and the 2 children that were innocently slain. I'm still haunted by this story. A few years back, I had picked up my daughter, who was 3 at the time, from my ex-husband. We alternated weeks of having our daughter, and that was my week to have her. My ex-husband lived about an hour away from me, and on my way home, I noticed that my car was on E. I pulled over to this tiny gas station to refill and get some snacks and coffee. I parked my car at the pump with my daughter in the back car seat. I got out and gave one of the men working there a 20 to fill up the tank. I ran inside the tiny gas station real quick to get myself coffee and some snacks for my daughter to have. I go to ring it all out, and the guy behind the register asked if I wanted to get any gas as well. I told him no. I gave the attendant out front $20 to fill me up, so I'm already good. The guy behind the register gave me this confused look and said they don't have an attendant for gas. It's all self-service. I looked out of the gas station window and nearly had a heart attack. The man who I assumed was the gas station attendant was inside of my car and trying to unbuckle my daughter from the car seat. I ran outside screaming my head off for him to get away from her. The man looked up at me in surprise, saw me coming at him, and took off running. I got to my car and saw my daughter was still in her car seat but she was crying hysterically. I yelled and pointed at the man who was now running across the parking lot that he had tried to take my daughter. Out of nowhere, there was this guy who was pumping gas for his motorcycle who ran full speed at him and tackled him. And he was big too. He held him down and told me to call 911. It was a whole nightmare. Police had all the evidence they needed from the gas station surveillance cameras, and the man was arrested for attempted kidnapping. As much as I blame that man, I also blame myself. I should have never left my daughter alone in her car seat while I went inside. It was so stupid of me, and I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive myself for being so negligent. All in all, I'm just glad my daughter was not harmed, and that man is now behind bars. This happened a few years ago when I was working at my town's gas station in Florida. I was a manager for the station, and that day I had all my employees call off, leaving me by myself for the entire day. I was pretty pissed because that meant there were no closers, and I had to stay much later than I wanted to. It was getting close to nighttime, and we had a sudden storm that started coming through. Like it was bad. Rain was ramming into the windows, and I could even hear the roof shaking a bit. Typical Florida weather, really. Well, I was inside the gas station, just looking out the windows and watching the storm, trying to make the time go by faster, when this man comes in. He was soaked, obviously, but he looked really rattled. I went behind the counter and got him a towel to help dry himself off. He thanked me and proceeded to pay for $10 of gas on pump number 2. I rang him out and said he was all good to go, try not to get too wet out there. He sort of laughed at this and then walked outside. I went back to the window to watch the storm. That's when I noticed there was no car or vehicle parked at pump number 2. This isn't too odd, as you could be filling up a gas container of some sort, but I didn't even see that. I watched curiously as the man walked over to pump number 2 and grabbed the nozzle. What he did next, I could not believe. He presses the nozzle and starts showering himself in gasoline. This was very dangerous. I opened up the door and called out to him that he needs to stop right now. The man did not listen. He proceeds to use all $10 worth of gas on himself, and then took a couple steps towards me. I honestly had no idea what he was going to do, but he was now close enough to me where I could see that he was sobbing. I told him to go rinse himself off in the rain right now. The guy just shook his head and pulled out something from his pockets. It was a lighter. I begged the man to put it down and stop what he's doing, but he just shook his head. He held the lighter up and sparked it. His whole body instantly went up into flames. Horrified, I ran behind the counter and grabbed the fire extinguisher. I ran outside where the man was now screaming in the most haunting and agonizing pain that I've ever heard. I doused him with the extinguisher as he rolled around on the ground in agony. I won't be too graphic, but I can literally smell his flesh burning. I used the whole extinguisher on him, but he was still screaming. I rolled him into the rain to try my best to put the fire out off of him. In the end, I called an ambulance and they had to come out and rush him to the hospital. To my knowledge, the man actually survived, but I did hear most of his body was now disfigured and he'll never be the same. I can't speak for him, but he clearly had mental issues, and it seemed like he just wanted to end his life. I'm glad he survived, but his screams and his burnt body still haunt my nightmares to this day.